Hello, everyone. It's great to see so many people here in the room. I don't know how many are on the stream, but I'm happy that we have a crowd here and we can dive into what I think is one of the crucial topics at this moment. So first of all, welcome back to Saarbrücken. Yay! Welcome back to Revision. And welcome back to seminars. And I hope you're ready. I'm Kudrix. I've been in the Demoscene since 2015 now, and I have basically dived into the culture right from the start. It was the first time I was on Revision. It was 2015. It was my first demo party, so it was an absolute hilarious experience. So since then, I've been trying to make myself useful in a variety of things. I've held a couple of seminars here on this stage and on others, and have looked into what is, in fact, the Demoscene culture. What is it that it makes us tick, and why do we relate to the culture? And I have, in the past years, asked myself the question, what is the evolution of the Demoscene? So where are we going? Are we, at some stage, maybe moving from underground to Broadway? Is this even something that the scene wants? But I think it's now a good time to actually dive into this topic and discuss about it. So I think Saarbrücken, we have a problem. So we have big dreams. All of us have big dreams. Usually we have no cash. And this holds true for many startups, and it seems to be the evergreen motto for our demo scene. And it's the very same for many hardware and software preservation projects. And I have asked myself the question, does our scene have to stay underfunded forever, or is there some way out, and when is maybe a good time to pursue such a course? I have divided this presentation into 3 different parts. So first, I would like to ask you to follow me on a journey that I'm on, and look into projects which are successful or not, and for what reasons. Then we will look into what are sceners, including myself, still doing in the underground mode without any extra funding, any budget. And last not least, we look at what can be a path to acquiring further funding for all our activities. So let's get started. And I have drawn a lot of references from the community of retro computing, because they are quite adjacent to us and some overlaps there, and there's lots of projects going on already in this space where we can look at what is successful and what not. So first, let's start with our demo parties. They are all around the world, and you are, as the scene, quite familiar with these. They have been around for 3+ decades and various shapes and sizes, and are organized by a very energetic, highly motivated, and hard-to-kill crowd. So you all know that the scene has been declared so many times dead in the past 3 decades that you can not count it even. But obviously there are still lots of people being organizers, hosting the events, and also as important, people contributing to these events. But usually everything's very tight on budget. So we are at a prestige event here at Revision. You know, this is quite substantial money involved here. But if you look behind the scenes, oftentimes, even main orgers' livelihoods and their personal financial situation is at stake with running such a demo party. So why does it have to be like that? We'll look into that. So looking into retro computing activities, this is close to my home in Offenbach Digital Retro Park. It's a very enthusiastic local community. These guys have their museum there. And it's open only 1 day a week because of resource constraints. But all the gear that you have there, you can touch, you can use. They are very friendly, welcoming, and also very educative. And they have Demoscene affiliations. So one of the guys you might know, Falk, who isn't here at this point, is the Demoscener. He's also part of the Digital Retro Park and now also a board member. And this is just an activity, project, whatever you want to call it, being upheld by a small local community. And the whole endeavor is usually starving money-wise. So it's only based on these enthusiasts doing the work and of this local community a couple of years back, one of the key guys died, unfortunately, with the age of 51, and this already created a huge disruption and hole in the whole ecosystem. So next one, also very close by, also same community actually, Flipper and Arcademuseum in Seligenstac, also Rhine-Main area, and this is a very, very popular and well-run pinball and arcade experience center with 250 running devices, 700 square meters, 2 floors, only open 1 day a month. It's always sold out in advance forever. And they have their own maintenance and archiving operations, and it's completely community run, relies on entrance fees and membership fees. I think they don't have a financial problem, but obviously having the volunteers to open every day is practically not possible. So looking also outside of Germany, The Cave by RMC Retro, it's in UK, so I don't know if UK folks are here and have been there. It's a very cool technology, history, exploration, and experience center, and it hosts visitor groups and events. It's 2 hours west of London, so if that would be in London, I think they would be completely overrun. But it's 2 hours west of London in a nice building, very well organized. And the key success factor here is it's based on a YouTube channel that was created by Neil, the guy who invented it all in 2017, with now more than 100K subscribers. And it's a very committed guy driving the whole endeavor. And because it's a full-time approach on the topic, and the dedication ensure the success of the activity. So if you ever are in the area, I highly recommend to go. And this is a really cool thing that works. So another thing that I've recently also visited with the main organizer of the Amiga events is the Home Computer Museum in Helmond in the Netherlands. It's also not quite central, but it's very near to the German border, so you can easily reach it. And it's a very, very cool shop to go. And this is just a tiny bit of the things that you see there. And it's extremely professionally run retro museum, but it's also an experience center, so you can touch everything. And they are open Wednesday to Sundays. And they have also their own repair and maintenance workshop, and they have a well-curated archive and lots of stock there. And they obviously also relying on contributions and donations. But they have managed to ramp this up, and even during the pandemic managed to run the shop, even though they couldn't basically open the store. But it's also, again, based on a very committed founder who took the reins into his hands and has assembled a great team to run this thing. And despite they have different revenue streams, having open almost, or have 5 days a week open, they always have also a money issue. So, and these are all not secrets. If you talk to the people, they're very open about it. And it's because of their passion and commitment to the stuff that it's working. Now, looking at something very, very different. So, if you have ever had the chance to visit the Computer History Museum in Mountain View in California, you will be basically blown away by a couple of things. So first of all, this is absolutely stunning, impressive museum, top-notch building, huge thing, prime location, in the heart of the Bay Area, next to all the big tech. And this is probably also already one of the success factors. But it's a real museum, so there's lots to see, little to touch. If we go back here on this page, you see these are not just metal things, these are glass panes in front of the things, so you cannot really touch it, and it's not intended to be touched. But it's extremely well curated, an impressive exhibition, really cool thing to experience. It's a top-notch thing, hosts visitors, events, projects, centers of expertise. It's a whole company approach on things. And it's top-funded, and it has also the mission that we completely relate to: the past informs the present. And they make it work, and they I don't know exact the budget numbers, but they probably have millions to throw at the thing every year. And it's very cool to experience. So I ask myself the question, what can we learn from these things? What is it that they do differently, or what are the chances that they have optimized for themselves to basically get the recognition and also the funding that is needed to run such a show? So this is all part of my journey. I've explored all these things in the past years and months, and try to find out what is the common denominator of the things that work and what is not working, and I think I've presented a couple of these. It's usually motivated, driven individuals who throw in the work, also in a completely volunteer mode, oftentimes to their complete own power drain, and it works because of the commitment. It's not because it's a relaxed situation funding-wise. So what is it that now has reached the point in our community that we can basically do to prime the pump for our own funding pipeline, if we want to? So if we really want to, because some people think it's a risk of trying to get more money in from whatever sources, because then the charming character will go away. I think it will not, but let's look into that for a second in the next couple of slides. So I call this priming the pump, which means we already have done a lot of stuff in the past 3.5 decades or 3 decades. And this is basically all underground mode. This is grassroots movement. This is people doing the stuff and doing things that are extremely valuable, and I will come to that in the later part of the presentation. So obviously what everyone is doing to some degree, more or less, is outreach to related communities. So if you talk to peers at other conferences about what you do for the scene, this is kind of an outreach. I sometimes take the chance to do this on a dedicated basis and try to reach related communities which should know the scene, the demo scene already, because it's so closely related. And oftentimes I'm very surprised that people who come from an academic, theoretic point of view on art with mathematics and similar traits don't know what the demo scene is. And they are surprised that something that they work on in theory and have published thousands of pages about is in fact lived by a community and celebrated on these demo parties. So I go to these events once in a while and clash this theoretical crowd with demos, and usually they are very impressed or stunned. And it's always a very strong encouragement to build stronger ties with the Demoscene community in these communities. So, but this also works for unrelated communities. So what I've started doing is go to other types of conferences and just run a demo show there. So this is an example of the My Data conference in Helsinki. It's a crowd that cares about human-centric data economy and human-centric data management and so on. So somewhat kind of from a spiritual perspective closely related to our mindset, I think. And I use these opportunities to introduce the scene to outsiders who mostly haven't heard about it. And on these conferences, I also show demos as a side act or maybe even as a distraction. And if I'm on the stage for whatever presentation, I usually in the outro, I talk about the demo scene. And also here, people are extremely interested and like to learn more. So sometimes I get into a follow-up conversation or people ask me about more details. I send it to them afterwards. And usually the conclusion is, this is huge and it should be promoted outside of this niche community. So what's also very helpful, and also in the space of art of coding, I'll come to that, and Melkor is here and has held the seminar this morning, you can actually do great things with outreach articles, and this is also a cool collaborative effort. So this is a magazine that was just released in the wake of the A500 Mini, and if you see here, active demo scene, there's an article in there which is a joint production of two the other Demosceners and myself, Ronnie and Psychon, who helped to author the article. And this is really cool, as you can bring entertaining and educative Demoscene articles to audiences which are somewhat related or sometimes also even outside of that scope. It can be online or print media. I had just a conversation with Unlock earlier today on Watson, which is a very renowned Swiss platform for sharing news and tech news. There was an article about the Demoscene which was based on an interview. And this was really cool because it reached so many people who had never before or oftentimes not heard before of the Demoscene. So this Return magazine, they are usually, and all the other media as well, are very thankful for contributions of independent authors who promote a topic. And you are not usually getting money for it, but that's not the point. It's like having the chance to portray the scene in a cool way and reaching other people. And it's usually quite a project. So writing an article, even if you do it alone, is a project, but if you do it with others, collaborators, it's even more. But it's very rewarding because in the end you have a release, right? So it's a magazine and you have the article, and it's like a release. And it's a great collaboration opportunity in the best sense and spirit of the Demoscene as you work together with people. And so a little bit of a teaser, another magazine like this one is coming out I think in May it's planned. It's for the 40 years C64 celebration, and there will be another demo article in that magazine with lots of more collaborators from the scene who have contributed. Some of them are here in the room. So this is coming up. So this is a cool thing to basically, and a grassroots thing again, to make the scene more known. So what we also are doing and should do is document the works and the cultural practices of the scene. So we should build repositories of what the digital culture is that we all love. And this is something we are, as a scene, doing quite well already, because keeping historic records of scenes, scene events and scene productions is native to the scene, as otherwise this all wouldn't work, because you're building a reputation over the years because you know people, but usually it's also quite well documented somewhere, which then in the end helps to prove, like in the UNESCO application, that you are a digital culture that has existed for 3 decades or even longer, and you can even prove the artifacts that are around and demonstrate that is a living practice of digital culture. And lots of academic publications also exist. You probably are aware of the different research strands that have been pursued in the past years, and even dissertations being written about the scene. So I felt this is something that could be improved a bit in the sense of that we should have a repo about all the digital culture publications in books, retro computing, history, IT history, Demoscene related, in some kind of repo that is public. I've started something on a Zotero citation database, which I've made public. I've just started entering my own stuff, but I would like to basically do this also as a community effort to see who has which books that are related to the scene, which articles are known, and so on. I think there are a couple of pages out there that you may know, but I would like to have this in a more consolidated version. But here, you also know these platforms that you know, Demoscene, PUE, scene.org, and all the related activities. They are run by enthusiasts, motivated, committed people, basically on the side. So if we had a bit of funding for this from whatever source, it could be much better and make their lives somewhat easier. So last, obviously not least, is receiving official, I deliberately put the quotes there, obviously, what is official recognition for the work. And the project that you are all familiar with, I assume, is Art of Coding, which was initiated by Melkor, who is here in the room, and by Andreas Lange of Offenbach. Basically an initiative to get the Demoscene recognized as an intangible cultural heritage of mankind by UNESCO. This is a very formal official process, but it's working. Art of Coding has, from the start, had significant momentum and still has, and produced results, which means the Demoscene is recognized as intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO in Finland, Germany, and Poland. So we can wave the UNESCO flag in these countries successfully already. And others are work in progress. Switzerland has handed in basically the application. France, Denmark, Netherlands, and others are basically also working on it. And as Melchior reported this morning in the other seminar, the international application for getting on the basically global list of intangible cultural heritages will come in the next years, and this will be a long year process, but nevertheless, we are there. And I think this fact that we have now reached the UNESCO status for some of the countries for the Demoscene already has helped people getting into a thinking mode. Well, if we are getting this UNESCO rubber stamp, maybe we can reach for the stars. So maybe 2023 is a good year to start reaching for the stars and finally come to a Broadway situation, if you like. So, coming to the part 3. How can we approach the Broadway? How can we acquire funding? How can we do stuff differently without compromising the key characteristics of the scene? So let's take stock on our assets. So I don't know how many people of you have asked yourself the question, what is it that is so special about the Demoscene? Why do I come back all the time? And what is it that holds the community together? And what is it that people are interested about? I've tried to do that a couple of times. I've also, together with Ronnie, written and other seniors from the Art of Coding Discord channel who collaborated basically with inputs, written an article about it. And we have instantly come to the conclusion it's obviously not the technology that bands us together, but it's the people. And you can look at this, if you like, in private. So we have lots of assets in this community that many people are of the community most likely not aware or have not really considered what are the assets. So I think we have to recognize we are truly decentralized, this is very special, creative, native digital culture. This is all very rare. And all of you who have basically asked yourself the question or discussed with others, what is it, this digitalization thing that everyone wants to? Everyone wants to do digital transformation, and no one really understands what that is. People think it's scanning in a document, and other public sector orgs think it's putting up a web form on a website where you do the same crap as you do with filling in by hand. So we, I think, all know this is not what digitalization means, right? So we have a deep understanding of digital phenomena. And we have this because we have lived through the era when all this first started to coming into life. And the digital is for us baked into our lives very naturally already. And this is very, very special. And we have always had, and this also relates us somewhat to the hacker culture with also another very interesting digital culture, we have a powerful hacking attitude in the original sense. So not breaking and entering, but exploring the boundaries of systems and bringing them to the limits or even beyond. And last, absolutely not least, we have a strong feeling of community and we thrive in it. And it's not like always portrayed in the early days of computing, these little kids being at home only at their PCs or not network PCs at this time, not being social anymore. It's exactly the opposite. Go outside here, you know what I mean. So what is this now that others could need from us? I've already shown what I think are characteristics that are very close to us and are really embossing what we are as a culture. So what could others be interested in? So we, as a community, could help mankind to cope with the digital age. If you ask the people, what is it that they struggle with? It's lots of things that they struggle with. It's information overload. It's not understanding what's happening. It's not understanding what's happening in the digital device. It's not understanding what data is collected where it's flowing, where is it used for you or against you. It's sharing skills for human-friendly digital transformation. Help people deal with the digitalization and digital age, and transport also alongside digital and technological expertise, but this is not the core of it. It's more like being able to deal with this stuff. And let people experience truly self-organization in dynamic teams. So this is not common practice in companies today. And teaching people to be competitive but cooperative at the same time. This is all not out there in the wild. So I think if we find a way to use these skills that we have, the experiences, and let others benefit from this, I think we are in a very cool spot. So what can we do practically? At first, obviously, we can intensify the private sector liaison, which means we can work with companies who are already giving us money for events like this, and we already have them as sponsors. But obviously, if you look at the Computer History Museum, one of my hallmark examples, more is possible. And not only tech companies will be interested in these skills, explicitly not. So lots of companies will be interested, and lots of organizations will be interested to learn how we have dealt with the digital and why it works so good for us and why it's not good working for the rest of the world. And this obviously, and this is now the business line in here, requires a delivery model with a clear value proposition because we need to sell something. And it's very important, I think, that we understand for ourselves and make this clear to us and also to the critics. We can support corporate without becoming corporate ourselves. I think this is one of the dangers that many see, that the Demoscene is completely compromised by corporate action or whatever. So I think exactly this is not the case. We can benefit from better funding, from better availability of funds without becoming corporate ourselves because people want to learn from us what this culture means. Obviously, what this UNESCO mirror has shown us, we can also very strong and very proudly start tackling public grants. So there are lots of opportunities out there where you can apply for public funding. You can do it locally on municipal level, driven by the city government. So you can ask your local city, do you want to support this event? You can look at state level, which is driven by the state ministries in your local federal state. So for example, in Hessen, it could be the Ministry of Wissenschaft und Kunst or Culture or whatever. And the same actually holds true on national level. So your federal ministries like the BMBF or also Wissenschaft and Economic Affairs even, which basically always have open funding lines to ask for money. And this even goes obviously beyond on the EU level, which makes the situation a bit more complicated because then you have to have different partners on the different states or at least two partners from different states and apply, so it has certain complexity. So coming to some common basic parameters on these funding calls, I'm talking about public money, so government money. It is always required that you hand in a written proposal to the call specification. Okay, this is probably not a big surprise. And this is not for sustainable long-term funding. It's usually always for project-based activity for a limited time period. So whatever you ask has to be packaged in a project. It can obviously encompass different events, publications, whatsoever, but it has to be some kind of project which has a purpose and a beginning and an end and a team who's delivering the results. And this, most of the times, cannot be done by individuals alone. You have to have some kind of legal entity to hand in the proposal, because you have to have a legal entity, an organization, a company, whatever, a Verein, an association, which is handling the whole matter and taking also some kind of the risk. And this is also very important to note. This doesn't mean everything is paid for in such a project. Usually, personnel expenses, like the salary for people or writing the hours, is covered to some degree only. So maybe it's 50%, sometimes it's 80 or more, but in the end it means this rest of the funding needs to come from some other source. So you have to have additional third-party funding for running the project and having a complete finance situation. And this means you have to have this money from elsewhere. And usually this means, okay, you have to ask some company to also be part of the show and finance the rest. What are the downsides of all this? I think the headline already says it quite well. Formality and accounting are absolutely no fun. So understanding even the call specs can be very cumbersome, and writing a proposal in the right wording is an effort. And if you have not done this before, you may even not succeed. So you need to have someone who has done this before and has some knowledge in this space. And deadlines are deadlines. So it's not like on demo parties. Sometimes you can sometimes you can ask for an extension, but mostly it's not like this. If you have to reach a date and deliver stuff, then it's the deadline. And thorough accounting and reporting are absolutely must-haves. Otherwise, it will be only one thing that you have done with this organization and you're dead already. These are musts to fulfill clearly. And I know from creative people, this is sometimes difficult to also have a very structured approach on documentation of invoices and cash in, cash out, and so on. But these are must-haves. Otherwise, it's not flying. So ideally, we can pool resources and pool interest in that space, that not everyone has to go for this cumbersome path. And usually also with these public grants, it's a delay between the work done and the payment schedule. So you have to do the work, document that you have done it, and then in the end you hand in all the documentation, and then with a delay you get the payment. So this has to be all taken into account, because it's not you do the month's work and you're billed, it's a delay. So obviously it has a bright upside. I think we can deliver societal benefits and have a funding inflow at the same time. So we can give the Demoscene purpose beyond our own community. And we can let broader society benefit from the scene skills. And we can even, and I think this is a bit provocative here, turn around the screwed up digitalization we are in now and make the digital world a little bit better because of all that we know and can share. And we can be paid for what we used to do for free otherwise. Not every time, but if we have a project, we can at least approach it that way. And please, please take away, receiving some money for good work that you do is not a crime. So we are not compromising the scene, we are not making the scene corporate. It's just like we are taking a bit of relief for the scene for us by acquiring this help. I have obviously lots of ideas what we could do from a project perspective. So random brainstorming on my end. We can run a Demoscene conference, which is not a demo party. It's more like an official Demoscene conference. I think there's lots of sceners already thinking about something like that. We can do exhibitions in museums and galleries. So also a very easy thing for us to do. We can teach digital skills. So at Echtzeit in Switzerland, which I'm also a member of, we have projects that are already going in that direction with Pingala and Graphathon. Some of the people are also here. Psychon is running Pingala. It's a terrific project. It's really cool, and it should scale. It's just brilliant. We can do digital culture workshops, and we can approach preservation of mankind's digital cultural heritage in a more profound way. And I want to close off with what I'm already doing and what I know some of the others are already doing and having started. I've looked at screening possible public funding lines and grants. I have some people at the company I'm in that are very skilled with these matters, and they help me, and then they screen the stuff, and we already think about what we can draft as a project proposal for such a public grant. And also, which goes very well in line with what I usually do, we are sketching an offering for private business organizations, how digital culture can be helpful for them. And I'm going around and testing the waters with the ideas. And this is what I'm doing here as well now today with you. And I'm seeking collaborators in all that. And yeah, I'm very happy that you're here and that you have listened to this talk. And I hope we had some people in the stream as well following. I'm very eager to make this work in a way that is compelling to the scene and not harming it. And I really would like to work with people who are interested in that way and finding a matter of transforming certain projects into paid projects and basically taking relief that the scene deserves. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, and thank you obviously also for supporting this great demo party. And yeah, I'm here and would like to answer questions if there are any. Otherwise, I'm here till tonight, and hopefully we have some time to catch up afterwards. And just a side note, this presentation was fully party-coded, so I've taken the time here to work on it. So I hope you have liked it, and I'm looking forward to continuing the discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I have two remarks that I would like your opinion on them, or maybe other people from the audience. The first one is I don't really see how like a community could come up with like offering or value proposals, because it seems to me like what you said is like yeah, the community should make partnerships with private structures, and it seems to me it's already happening. Like Demosceners have always been employed by game companies, software companies, and so on. And so I don't see how a community could come up with such a structured offering. And the second remark is affiliation with hackerspaces. Some small demo parties are organized in hackerspaces, and the spirit is already there. Like just look at the tables over there. And it seems to me that, of course, hackerspaces also strive with money, but that's not such a big deal, because it's also another way of seeing money, like I help you, you help me, there's no money involved. So maybe money should not be a big problem for us neither. So yeah, what's your opinion on that?
Anyone wants to comment first? I certainly have a view on that. Let's start with the first then. So I think it requires some kind of an internal project to basically come up with this propositions, right? So I have my ideas, which are my ideas. I think they are maybe not resonating with everyone, but I think we could have a joint brainstorming, gathering of ideas, what it could look like to basically fill in other organizations with a thought and spirit of the demo scene. And I'm not saying demo sceners are working in game companies. I'm saying demo sceners with their experience get together and drive digital transformation for businesses and societies. So it's not like coding for other companies. It's like telling people, look, this is how digital life works. So these are more the value propositions I have in mind. And obviously, this is something that needs to be worked out in a project proposal or whatever. And I'm currently trying to do this. And I'm trying to prepare some stuff, and I will also obviously approach you as a community via the Discords and Slacks that are out there to basically get this feedback. And the other point, hackerspaces, I'm not too familiar with them. I think those that are really creating value for the members are doing quite well. And I think there's a good structural match with what we do with the Demoscene. And obviously, Demoscene always will be helpful to one another. I'm just saying it shouldn't be only this, that everyone relies on the best efforts or good efforts of people, and so that we're not risking personal financial matters because we are running a demo party. And it's always, is there enough money in the end that I can pay all the bills? Or do I have to overdraft my bank account for 1,000 euros or 5,000? Because it's just not working out. I think this is kind of the stress relief I want to bring in, and not totally not question the helpfulness that people have to one another already. Does that make sense?
Well, we will discuss later.
Okay. Further questions? All tired and blown away. I have one comment. Maybe you see that there's lots of different people already banding together in organizations, like Computerkunst e.V. that has just been founded last year in Berlin, Germany, as a Demoscene association. We have in Switzerland Echtzeit, which has been around for ages as Demoscene association. We have Tastatur und Maus e.V., we have Digitale Kultur e.V. So these are already basically rough constructs for legal entities who could do stuff like that. So it's forming. I've discussed with people who have been on that path for quite years, and they say, okay, well, the natural step is we do this, and it's like picking the bits and pieces together and forming a nice, compelling thing, and do it with the organizations that are already out there.
I was trying to draw the line between getting funding from some ministry, for instance, and the problem of having to fund a demo party.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine that. Could you talk about some examples how that could happen?
Yes, sure. So actually, for funding a demo party is obviously has never been considered to actually be a platform for other activities that are driven out of such a project. So what do I mean with that? So holding such seminars or having a room for some people getting together doing something in that project could be a paid for activity. So this means we could basically have a contribution out of a project to a demo party because it hosts part of the project. So one key milestone of such a project is presenting results of the work done at a scene event. So the revision could basically be supported by such a project because a key milestone is we deliver something here at the event for the scene, for the public, and things like that. So this is where you can build the ties. It's a way of creatively connecting the mechanisms that are there. So obviously, if you have public funding, you cannot say I want to fund a demo party. Yeah, you have to have a project that ties in with what the demo party can bring as audience, and what you bring as a project, and why it multiplies when you do it on this event. And Melkor, you're also familiar with that stuff. Please join in if you like. So I think these are the mechanics, but you have to think about creatively how you can bring this together.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Not sure? Yes.
Better.
Yeah, I mean, it's more a comment or a sideline. I mean, One tricky part, of course, is getting it right, that we keep doing what we do for the last 30 years out of our own motivation, because in motivational psychology there is this thing, there's like, if you have an external reward, it can lower the motivation in the long run if that external rewards can turn down internal motivation. That's like part of, and there's like, and all of us know, so even in Digital Kultur e.V., I mean, Kudrix knows this as well, all of us are like, what's done for the scene is for free and has been done pro bono. So I think if I understand you right, it's like about extra projects or finding a thin line which gives a layer of security in terms of demo parties or so. And because the other part, I think no one of us wants to lose this, because some of us are in our 20s, some are in our 50s, or maybe even close to the 60s, and we don't want to lose that, of course, coming here out of our own motivation. And so finding that thing right, I think, is that what you meant by being careful about not...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well phrased, thank you.
Thank you. One thing that I think is important is, should we not try to get funds for those activities that that support our preservation tasks? Like running scene.org servers must be expensive. I have no clue, but must be money. Like it's on since 20 years. I don't know who paid for them. What would happen if they are not paid anymore? Demo parties is one thing, but I also think infrastructure costs are a very important thing to be funded. Because if they rely on personal budgets of single people, they are single points of failure in the case they decide to stop paying for them. So instead of paying people to do things, which is, I think, yeah, maybe hard to communicate in the scene and get understanding in the demo scene. Paying expenses that are there is where I see funds
Yes.
placed in a most efficient way.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. This is also one of my favorite topics, actually, preservation of hardware. This is something I think we can clearly drive home as a track that needs to be funded. So there's lots of museums for everything and anything that are funded. So I think this is a clear thing that can be pursued directly. And also with the projects that I've mentioned, you can always also have Sachkosten. You can always have expenses for equipment as well as part of the project. I didn't explicitly mention that, but obviously if you have certain things that need to be paid for a certain time frame or whatever, this can also be part of the project and be directed to such efforts. Anyone else? I'm happy if you are happy, so. Then once more, thanks a lot for being here. Thanks for being an active crowd and active community over all these years. And yeah, looking forward to stay in touch with you on that topic and see you on one of the next scene events.